what are you drinking there, mate?
I've got here a special edition of Maker's Mark, Stave Profile 46.
Okay, pop that cork, mate.
Shall try. It's been a difficult one.
Pop it.
Beautiful. You hear that?
I did hear that. Oh, mine's a couple of weeks old. Just pour a little bit extra in there.
First one for the day. It's only 3 o'clock here. It's a bit earlier for me than I usually would be cracking one of these, but
yeah. Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Good health.
Cheers. So, Brendan Waddington, it's been a long while since we've been chatting for a while.
Yeah.
It's been a long while. I've been following your posts on Instagram for a fair while.
Watch me upset people all the time.
Is that what you're good at?
Well, it's upsetting to some, entertaining to others.
See, I noticed on your T-shirt there, which is great promotion for the No Bullshit Wellness.
Oh, yeah. Oop. Yeah, I see it now. So, yeah, it's
I'm trying to look at you. Your eyes. Your eyes are missing, mate.
No, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, so, yeah, that's my brand, No Bullshit Wellness. I've put a bit of whiskey already. You can't take me anywhere.
I've already read the book. I've read the book. I've also looked at some of the chapters over and over again. The Wellness Bible. What made you write that?
It was one of those things on the wheel of contemplation, like sit in the back of my mind for a while, and then plus having people coming up to me after some of my talks saying that you should write a book. So one day I thought, fuck it. I'm all out of swear, by the way.
Go for it. Go hard.
Yeah. Then I thought I just, on January the 1st, I just set it out, wrote a table of contents, and then about 365 days later, I wrote the final words. Just added a bit more each day, and yeah.
Can I read something out to you, which I thought was quite interesting?
Yeah.
Because I've come a little bit prepared, because I like to jump on your Instagram page, and every now and then I just see something that I go, oh, Brendan's at it again. He's written something.
Oh, God.
He's going to upset the snowflakes. They're going to come haunting him.
I'm going to eat my words now, aren't I?
Oh, maybe not. So you said this. You said this. What refutes science? And you wrote, well, somebody wrote better science.
Yep.
And then what doesn't refute science? Your feelings, your religion, your favorite politician, your half-baked opinion after watching 2 YouTube videos. So you didn't write that. Did you write that, or was that something that you commented on?
I think that was actually that was a meme or something like that. Was already, yeah, I just shared that one, but I agree with it wholeheartedly.
Yes, because your background is quite diverse. And let me read one more thing out, which I just loved. And it's a guy who refuted you on some crap. His name is Daniel Tellens. I don't know if you remember this one, but I'll read it out to you. All right. You might even be able to respond with what you wrote back. So he wrote, Brendan Waddington, where is your degree in all of this? Looks like you are just another keyboard warrior that doesn't like other people's opinions. Enjoy your day. You wrote back and went, on my wall next to my other degrees and diplomas. And then he wrote, what, in PT? And then you wrote bachelor's degree of health science and a diploma of paramedical science, just to name a few. But yes, I also have a PT qualification. What do you have? He wrote, like I said, I'm not going to get into a heated debate with you. It's my opinion and you have yours. And you wrote in the comments, I'm not going to get in a heated debate with you. How funny is that?
Yeah, guys like him all the time, every day. But I find it intellectually stimulating to argue with these numbats.
Yeah, because they don't really come up with science, do they? They kind of come up, which we want to talk a little bit about. You know, this whole science thing, non-science, refute science. You know, get more better science out there. But when somebody attacks you like that, is your way of maybe handling a situation like that just like, well, I'll prove to you where my qualifications are, and then maybe have a chance to read my book, and then let's debate it out. You know, let's argue it out respectfully. But you attack me with your opinion as opposed to your facts. It really doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, I think some of these people speak from a place of ego or emotion or both. But the thing is, like, when you're reading some of these posts, even news and stuff, and it takes up too much of my time, but I get addicted to reading through the comments. But I've found out that you can learn things that way sometimes. You might try and educate others. Usually it falls on deaf ears. But I've found myself to be quite wrong on a few certain things when someone who is educated or isn't just provides some evidence, which will make me think, oh, I didn't see it like that, and then I'll move my position accordingly. And that's pretty much what science-based thinker will do. Will change their position in the light of new evidence.
So, mate, who do you watch on YouTube? Do you watch YouTube at all, or where do you get your information from? Like, I know, in any field, whatever field that you're in, you do a lot of research. You obviously, back in my day, not your day so much, but back in my day, I used to go to the library. We had to go to microfiche. You had to find the explicit stuff that you wanted. Nowadays, everything's up on Google or DuckDuckGo or Bing or wherever you go. Where do you get your information?
Well, it's not a lot different from your day, except we don't have to go down to the library. The library's online. But when I say library, I mean peer-reviewed science journals. I don't mean Dr. Google or even worse, some conspiracy things on YouTube. I don't consider YouTube at all. I mean, occasionally there might be something factual that is surrounded by a whole pile of bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just why it's just not reliable because, but you go to something that's passed the peer review process, it has made its way to journals such as the Lancet, the British Medical Journal, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, and there's thousands out there. Some are better than others, but they're all, a good start.
But can they be wrong also? And I know this is a tough question to answer because science is science. But can they be wrong?
Yep. Absolutely, some can be more right than others, but and I don't claim to be a big hardcore scientist. If anything, I'm probably just a science enthusiast or maybe even a science communicator at best. But so science. There's different levels of science, and it makes its way through the peer review gauntlet. And by the time it's published, it's usually pretty good. But when the studies are reported, that makes that then that study has gained strength. And then it's really tightly controlled studies, such as one that's placebo-controlled or blinded or double-blinded and placebo-controlled and randomised, and all these things are getting higher up again. And so then you'll might have 100 of those studies saying one thing, but only one study saying the other one. And that one study might only be like a poor quality study versus hundreds of high quality randomized controlled trials. And then you've got studies of studies like systematic reviews and meta-analyses. And that's looking at all the studies and it'll sort out the shit ones and put them over there and then retain the good ones so that are rigorous.
Well, mate, I want to talk to you maybe about three things because we talk about the crises of the world. And maybe if we can break it down a little bit, and these are, again, they can be based on your research and what you know. They can all be based on your opinions as well, because a lot of it can be based on my opinion. And if you've got something that you want to add to my opinion, hey, I'm here to be educated or I'm here to be debunked. I mean, I don't know what it is, but if we go back maybe 12, 18 months, maybe even 2 years, global warming and climate change was the big crisis of the day. That was a massive crisis. Everyone got into it. Everyone was you draw a line in the sand, you're either standing on this side, you're standing on that side. Okay, so the world's going to end in 50 years. We're not going to repair it ever again. Global warming's a real thing. Ice caps are melting. Florida's going to sink. Queensland's not going to be there. And where you are in Western Australia, it's now going to be called Northern Territory because you're all going to have to move there. Right. I know I've exaggerated a bit. So that was one crisis.
No, I get you.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known this question was coming. I would have prepared for it, but I'll do my best off the top of my head.
Yeah, and we might just cover it like, just maybe surface level because we don't want to get too heavy into it. But also, can I just add while I'm saying that, are you prepared for any comments that come back? Because when I upload this to YouTube, what's going to happen? You're going to get two sides of the factions.
Yeah. Let's go to war.
Let's go to war. I'll drink to. Bring it on.
I love it.
Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah,
So that was the first. Bring it on. That was the first crisis. The second wave or the second crisis is the COVID-19, is the coronavirus. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's something new that's just popped up in the last couple of days, but you might have heard of it on the news. COVID-19. Yeah.
I think that's what the patients in the hospitals I've been working at lately. All right.
Those ones. Yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
So there's that crisis there. And then it's shifted from that to let's lift the restrictions. People went to protest. We had that horrible situation where George Floyd was knelt on. And his famous last words were, "I can't breathe." And then the world is now taken over with the Black Lives Matter movement. And so that's the third crisis of the world. And I don't know where you are, but they're starting to talk now about a second wave. So there's now a second wave of coronavirus coming through. I think Queensland was going to open up its borders in July. I think they've decided now to close and leave the borders closed because we don't want any of you Westerners coming across. And we certainly don't want any of the Mexicans coming through. Something like that.
We need to build a wall.
Build here. Yes. So if we go back to the first crisis of the day, global warming. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on that? Because there was certainly, draw the line in the sand, two factions.
Well, my education and experience more lies in health and wellness. So I would probably trust the world's leading experts in atmospheric physics and climatology. 97% of these guys pretty much completely acknowledge that human-induced climate change is a real thing. And it's happening, and them's the facts, the hard, cold facts. Most of the people who deny it, they usually disguise on the internet. They don't seem to. I'm not sure where you're at with it, so I'm going to try not to insult you depending on where you're at. But I think we should have a certain level of trust in the experts in that field. And if someone's like, "Oh, well, I saw a thing on YouTube that debunks it." No, that didn't debunk anything. That's just some wombat's YouTube opinion. I say, even though we're on YouTube now, so the evidence is overwhelmingly in favour to demonstrate that human-induced climate change is a real thing. That doesn't mean we're all going to get flooded and all these extreme things. A lot of these people the science denialists, are saying that they come up with things about Greta Thunberg and all that. They're basically, it's like straw man arguments. They're kind of changing the subject a little bit. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I can predict, I can have an educated guess, or in my case, probably an uneducated guess. But it's not going to be an easy fix. And I don't think we're going to have to stop driving our cars around and like all these Hoons are worried about. I've got a Harley Davidson right there, and I'm sure that puts out its fair share of pollution. I'm not going to sell that anytime soon.
Oh, look, and I'll be really clear about my stance is that absolutely there is climate change, but I'm a bit wary to the extent of the apocalypse happening. The scare of what the media, I think, is trying to sell us. And I'm not a fan of mainstream media at all. It just sickens me if I have to turn on to The Project or if I have to listen to any of Channel 9, Channel 7, any mainstream. It sickens me to the core, because I just think, they're only owned by 4 conglomerates, and they're all owned by, people who want to push their own narrative. So I guess why I say I probably watch a lot of YouTube is that I try to delve down into what's real and what's not real, but I also have a sense of commonality, like common sense. I don't know if that exists, but my gut feeling is that I'm not going to stop traveling. I have to now because they're not allowing us to, but I'm not going to stop traveling. I'm not going to stop driving my car. I'm not going to stop doing any of the normal things I'm doing. I'm not going to stop eating meat. I'm not going to stop the whole thing around that I must follow this narrative because the world is an apocalypse. It's so devastating that we're all going to end our lives in 50 years. Are you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't actually watch TV, so I might watch the occasional movie if I get time, which is never, but I agree with it. I don't think it's down to us end users, the people, to turn our lives upside down because some little girl said so. But I think the powers that be actually have the power and control to make some change without turning our lives upside down. Like, you know, to not destroy the lungs of the earth, which is the Amazon, would be a good start. And planting huge, we've got so much room to plant more and more trees and stuff. That'd go a long way too. Just those two things alone can go a long way. Then I'm sure the technology is there. We've come so far that I'm sure there's a lot we can do proactively to assist with climate change.
So you agree it's not doomsday. We're not at the end of the rope.
No, I don't think it's doomsday, but I think the way from what I've seen in the research about climate change, that it works exponentially. So there is a point of no return where we can't fix it. So we want to, and we're kind of heading that way rapidly. And so if we can do whatever we can to not hit that point, or try and like mitigate that as best as possible, yeah, it's going to be a lot better. And because it might not be in our lifetime, but it doesn't. What about our children? You know, so there's some serious things to consider.
Yeah, cool. So let's get on to coronavirus, COVID-19.
Yeah.
So this is really, like, I think, from my perspective, there's one day I was working, it was the 13th of March, 2020. And I think the 14th of March, it's like, we better pull back a little bit on the work that you do, because I speak to large audiences. Mate, we just need to pull back. We can't do that for a little while. Government suggestion is that we social distance. And the idea there is that we're going to keep everyone healthy and safe by trying to flatten the curve. The reports are, I think, of last count here in Australia, about 110, let's maybe pump it up to 120 people have died, I don't know, with or of coronavirus or COVID-19. I'm not too sure. But my opinion, and it's only my opinion because I can only base it on my opinion because I'm not skilled in this area at all, is that I think it's planned in some way. And when I say planned, is that I've seen way too many, I've seen that documentary Plandemic. I don't know if that was the one that I showed you.
Yep, no, you didn't show me, but Yeah,
and that was that Judy Mikovits.
Yeah, that moron, go on.
Yeah, and so I listened to that, and I kind of like think it's really hard for the layperson, for me, and I'm thinking about, so here's what I understand, is that sure, there is a virus out there. It's SARS-2. It's a respiratory disease. I get that. It can be lethal. It can be deadly to the elderly. I would even suggest that it's not as deadly as what the media is making it out to be.
Yep.
So one day I went to work. The next day, and I haven't worked now since March 13.
Mm.
So for me, do I get angry? I get angry that I never made the decision to stop work. I got angry that the government, this government just decided one day is that we're going to protect everyone in the world. We're just going to protect everyone. And it's incredible how everyone has just followed suit. It's just China, then the US, then the UK, then America, then Australia, then New Zealand. And we've just followed suit. So I just want to get your feedback on it. Is it as bad as what you think it is, what they're saying, the numbers?
I'd say it's probably worse.
Worse?
Yeah. So it's different to when it first came out, or we first learnt about it, because it seems it's mutating or something. So at first it seemed like it was only the vulnerable and immunocompromised that were being affected by it. Now it seems it's not just those people, it's healthy individuals, healthy doctors and nurses are also getting it and dying. Admittedly, obviously it's affecting the immunocompromised and the vulnerable a lot worse, but still some of these healthy people are getting it. And not just that, we're learning more about it. We're still learning about it because it's been less than a year. And what we're finding is that it's leaving there's some of these survivors with irreversible renal and neurological damage. And that's, and that's just the start of it. We don't know, this is still short term. It's such a new disease. What else can I tell you? So yesterday in Western Australia, we got one new case. We've only had about 700 in total, but one new case, and that was someone who flew in from overseas, and she's now isolated in a hotel room. But all it takes is that for her to pass that on to to a hotel worker, and then we can have another little outbreak again, and hopefully that won't happen. But yeah, it's a bit of a worry because we don't quite understand it.
Yeah, but see, even the phrase that you said there, we got one new case. It sounds like it's like oh my God, we shut up shop.
Yeah, well, because the reason for that is because it can just spread so easy. It seems to be more contagious. And then if you follow the comments and stuff on the internet, that you got people like, oh, but the flu killed more people last year. Well, hang on. These people are saying that 2 or 3 months in. You don't have an annual figure. That I mean, I think COVID's overtaken that number now anyway. But at the end of the year, then we'll be able to compare numbers. And at this rate, well, it's going to be a lot higher. But also keep in mind the rate that we have, albeit lower than the flu within the first couple of months compared to the annual figure of the flu. This is keeping in mind we have control measures, isolation, and all these things. I work in the FIFO, like mining industry, so I'm exposed to some heavy restrictions and isolations, and I get my nose raped with this thing through there all the way to the back. And I had it a few weeks ago, and I've got to have it again tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to it. It's not fun. But these measures are keeping the numbers as low as they are. Without it, we look like New York with this hundreds of thousands of people dying from it.
Well, I mean, yeah, hundreds of thousands of people dying from it. And see, my comment will always be this: if we can test every single person to see whether they died of maybe a comorbidity, I would be really happy with that. But we know that at least 25% of the people that have died, 25% weren't even tested. So if 25% weren't even tested, but we're still putting it on the list of
people aren't getting when these doctors are putting COVID-19 on the death certificate, I think, is that what you were referring to?
Yeah.
That decision is not taken lightly. There's a rigorous process to go through. There's not some conspiracy that every nurse and doctor and paramedic is on to bump up the numbers to get a few $1,000s from the government. That's just shit from that Plandemic documentary by that absolute
but why not?
Judy.
But seriously, but why not? Why wouldn't it be if you got those two doctors that came out? I think the Bakersfield doctor, Dr. Erickson, and his partner there. Why would they come out knowing that they would get dollars for just saying, "Oh yes, we've got COVID cases here"? So my question is, why would two respected doctors come out and say it's all just a crock?
Oh, they're not respected. These are known liars. That Judy, Miko Vick, or whatever you say, she lied to get her study published, and it was that was formally retracted by the journal, which is like the ultimate. That's like the biggest embarrassment. The ultimate. That whole movie can be picked apart and debunked. It's that documentary.
Yeah, documentary. Yeah.
Yeah. So, she's a known liar. Put it that way. She's no good. Anything can't be taken. Like most of those conspiracy docos, they can't be really taken seriously.
So what about then Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
Yep.
So he's again on the same side, who says we can't really believe or listen to what we're listening to with mainstream media. I mean, if you haven't listened to, and I saw one of your things that you wrote not that long ago. It had something like 5G towers are causing the outbreak. Doctors are getting kickbacks for mislabeling death records. Microchips will be implanted with mandated vaccines. And then there was Bill Gates holds the patent to COVID-19. And your response...
I shared that.
No. Your response was accurate.
No, that can't be right.
Yeah, you wrote that. Yeah, you wrote it.
Oh, mate, geez, I must have been hacked. That's the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever heard. So there's absolutely no link between 5G and COVID-19. Bill Gates is not trying to... Hey?
Let's take that one away.
I don't know what happened there. No. Bill Gates is absolutely not trying to depopulate the planet. This is just some things that some nut jobs are trying to trick the gullible into believing. So there's a heavily edited YouTube and misrepresented, miscaptioned YouTube video out there, and where Bill Gates is saying how with vaccines, we can reduce this. Like what he's talking about is because all these people in those countries they lose so many children to preventable diseases, to vaccine preventable diseases, and but if they vaccinate enough people, then the kids stop dying. They'll only have one kid or something instead of having 5 or 6 or 7 kids, because there's a likelihood that 3 or 4 of them are going to die. That's what that's about. And so that means that people will start dying from old age as opposed to dying from these preventable diseases. That's what that's about. And as for we've got 5G in 137 countries or whatever it is. Can't remember the exact number because I wasn't prepared for these questions. But
that's good.
We've only got coronavirus in like 37 countries or whatever it was. Once again, I can't remember the exact number. And what was it? I think you might have mentioned another one on there. Besides, you had 5G and COVID link. You had Bill Gates, something. What else?
Doctors are getting kickbacks for mislabeling death records.
Doctors are getting. Oh, well, so we've already touched on that. It's not as simple as that. No, there's a rigorous process to go through. And if anyone's going to make the call, someone's got COVID, I'd trust doctors over these conspiracy nut jobs.
Yeah, but you just said you would trust doctors, but you don't trust the 2 Bakersfield doctors.
Okay, I'd trust doctors that have with a good, healthy record. That God.
Dr. Rashid Buttar?
No.
Okay. So everything that I watch of that guy, I should just go, he's not respected. I should wipe him off the list.
I'll tell you what, watch it, but with a healthy skepticism. Maybe balance it out with some more evidence-based stuff, and then form your own opinion. But if you keep watching one thing, if you just watch yourself, nothing but the conspiracy style stuff, the stuff that's been debunked all the time, and nothing else, it's not really a healthy balance.
So I've learned of this other guy called Del Bigtree, who used to be a producer on The Doctors. Dr. Phil, The Doctors itself, and another doctor show in the US. And he was one of the producers. I think that's the one I sent you. I think that's the one that I sent you.
I think I must have been at work when I got that, and I didn't. People send me stuff when I'm up north, and then I'm like, I'll get back to that, and I just never got around to it. Sorry.
So what the premise of that was is that the Dr. Phil and I think Dr. Oz, those guys came out and they did a piece to camera with their mobile phone and saying, like Dr. Phil came out and he said something like, what's
a real doctor, by the way.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Correct. Well, not practicing anyway.
Yeah, and was never a doctor of medicine.
I never said he was a doctor of medicine.
Sorry.
Yeah, cool. So, but he came out and he said what's been more damaging is the depression rates, is suicide, is people social isolating from each other and not distancing, but there's social isolating. So we got to be really wary of what we hear with the figures. And then Dr. Oz came out and said the same similar thing. He said, you got to get out there, get some fresh air, get on the beach, go for a walk, enjoy yourself, make sure you get the fresh air.
3 of those doctors, Dr. Oz, Dr. Drew, Dr. Phil, all had similar messages. When they sat on televisions around the world, really, this is what they had to say.
How much damage is the media causing now the way they're covering us?
Essentially, the entire problem we're having is due to panic, not the virus.
We need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation, where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble.
I can't show you an X-ray of depression. I can't show you an X-ray of anxiety. But the fact of the matter is, the longer this lockdown goes on, the more vulnerable people get. And it's like there's a tipping point. There's a point at which people start having enough problems in lockdown that it will actually create more destruction and actually more death across time than the actual virus will itself.
This corona thing doesn't worry me at all.
It is a press-induced panic. I am angry about it. It is the flu. It's milder than we thought. The fatality rate is going to drop as we identify more cases. The entirety of the problem now is that people are being pushed into bankruptcy.
I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity. I just saw a nice piece in The Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. And, that's any life is a life lost. But to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk in the backside, It might be a trade-off some folks would consider. We need to get industry-backed supply lines. I mean, things that we can do without putting the nation at risk.
Poverty line is getting such that more and more people are going to fall below that because the economy is crashing around us. And they're doing that because people are dying from the coronavirus. I get that. But look, the fact of the matter is we have people dying. 45,000 people a year die from automobile accidents, 480,000 from cigarettes, 360,000 a year from swimming pools, but we don't shut the country down for that. But yet we're doing it for this, and the fallout is going to last for years because people's lives.
And 3 or 4 days later, Big Pharma came in, because that's who their bosses are, turned around and said, hey, I think what you need to do is, if you want your paycheck to stay at the end of the year with your 25, 26, $30 million every year, you need to go with the mainstream narrative, which is, this is serious, man. So I need you to retract what you said. And if you've written anything, I want you to redact everything. And I want you to apologize to the public. And of course, it was a great little, piece to camera, probably a teleprompter up. And then they read out a statement saying how wrong they were.
My early comments about equating coronavirus with influenza were wrong. They were incorrect. I was part of a chorus that was saying that, and we were wrong. And I want to apologize for that. I wish I'd gotten it right, but I got it wrong. What I did not get wrong was every time I took a position, I always said, make sure you listen to Dr. Fauci, because he is the person we must look to.
I've realized my comments on risks around opening schools have confused and upset people, which was never my intention. I misspoke. As a heart surgeon, I spent my career fighting to save lives in the operating room by minimizing risks. At the same time, I'm being asked constantly, how will we be able to get people back to their normal lives? To do that, one of the important steps will be figuring out how do we get our children safely back to school.
I've gotten a lot of tongues wagging by comments I made last night on Laura Ingram's show, so I thought I would follow up on that. Robin and I 100% support the CDC guidelines of quarantine and have been following them, sheltering at home and maintaining social distancing guidelines. I've said 100% I support that we shut the country down to protect what is perhaps a small percentage of those for whom this virus is most dangerous. Listen to your state governors, as I'm going to do, that you abide by their rules to stay at home until we are all happily united. If I offended people's sensibilities last night with my examples, then erase those.
So why would a doctor, regardless whether he's a respected doctor or not, but why would they put themselves on TV like that and then 3 or 4 days later retract everything that they had just said? Because that's
well, first and foremost, Dr. Oz, he's like one of the most, he's most famous for being a quack for the most part. But that information that you just repeated from him about getting some sunshine and that, yeah, well, that's actually good advice. You can't go wrong with exercise, sunshine, fresh air, nature cure. I mean, I'm also a naturopath by trade, so I definitely have some sort of a nature bias to some extent, but was also actually wrong, and he came out and retracted it. Yeah, but
he retracted his whole statement though. And see, I think for me, what makes it really difficult, because I'm just a layperson. I sit there, I look at my combi van every week, and I kind of like dream and go, that's where I'm going to be, soon. Drive a combi somewhere. And then, and I hear something and I go, oh, okay, I'll take that with a healthy amount of skepticism, like you say. And I go, oh, that might, but then when they come back 2 days later or 3 days later, and then they retract everything that they said, there's got to be something that tells me that the paycheck must be worth more than the facts.
Yeah. I see what you mean, and I can see why you'd think that.
Yeah.
And in regards to like the powers that be, I'm about as anti-government as you'll get.
Yeah.
But I also trust the experts in science. Only problem is we've got the governments who have their agendas, and they can sometimes influence to a degree. But that's why I guess it's good to find the way to have that critical thinking ability and way to critically analyse the evidence. So just because the government might agree with something doesn't mean the government put it there, because the government disagrees with a hell of a lot too. Hope I'm making sense to you.
Do you think what the government is doing is is cool? Like, do you?
Oh, no, what the government does is never cool.
No. But I'm just saying with this whole, you know, lock yourself away, isolate yourself. Like my father's 80, 89, nearly 90. So he's got a simple theory is that if you're sick, is that you isolate yourself and don't put yourself in any sort of danger. Look, I might not be sick. I don't know. I might be sick. I have no idea unless I go and get myself tested.
You could be an asymptomatic carrier. Yeah.
Yeah, I could be. I could be. So I could go out there and I could be spreading the virus out far and wide. And so if I'm spreading the virus, let's just say I am spreading the virus out far and wide. And I'll just be honest with you, man. I don't know anyone that's got the coronavirus. I just don't. I don't know anyone that's passed away. I don't. I do know in the field that I work that I know that there have been men and women who have, women who've attempted their lives. But I know a lot of, when I say a lot, a good 24 men that have taken their lives, which is horrible, based around this because they're thinking that the payout to keep their family healthy is going to be worth a lot more than them having to be locked away and not do any work. So I'll survive for a little while. But do you think the measures that are being taken are just a little extreme? Don't go on the beach. Don't go for a walk. Don't go in the park. Let's lock the park up. There's a park across the road from me, exercise equipment, belt it all up.
Yeah, I understand your concerns with that, and it makes sense. I guess we'd have to, maybe put yourself in the government's shoes. If you're tasked with the job of making these decisions to protect people, because if a big outbreak happens and we end up like America where just everyone gets it, you're not going to get voted in the next election. So I guess you've got to come up with some decisions, and the government aren't medical experts, although they consult with medical experts. And I think for the most part, it's not bad. You know, like if anything, it might not be strict enough. I think personally, in my opinion, I think that some of these restrictions were lifted a little bit early. We could have hung in there a little bit longer.
Did I just hear you say if the government doesn't follow the narrative that they're going to be afraid of not being voted in the next election? Is that what they're going to do?
Not in those words, but no. If too many people die on this government's watch, if they're too good, if too cruisy about it, too relaxed with these restrictions, and they go, all right, let's lift the restrictions early, and then all these people die and stuff like we have a huge wave like in America and Brazil, and they're like, no, they probably won't get voted in. But I mean, that's just one point of what I'm making. You asked me about what do I think of what they're doing. I think they're probably being a bit too relaxed, if anything, in Australia. And I understand the concerns about people losing their livelihoods and the isolation and the depression and stuff. And hopefully there's another way that we can address that as well. I've worked in ambulances and in the hospital. Sometimes I visit up to 5 hospitals a day, and I see like it's a real thing. And anyone that doesn't believe in COVID-19 thinks it's a big hoax. I think they need a high five in the face with a chair.
I don't think that the COVID-19 is a hoax. I think the measures in which the government's going about it, like, I mean, I don't need to mean to be rude here, but are you pulling a paycheck every week?
I wish. Oh, sorry. You mean from work?
Yeah, for work.
Yeah. No, you're not right at all. I'm fortunate enough that because I'm in the healthcare industry that, there's more work for healthcare people.
Yeah.
Less work for so-called non-essential workers. And I understand the pain and frustration, and I wish there's a way for the people that are losing work to get to survive it. The government, I think they could be doing things a lot better. Don't get me wrong, and like they seem to be helping out the dole bludgers who are less affected instead of the people that were earning money and now are not earning money. But all of a sudden, the dole bludgers are, and not everyone on the dole is a bludger for the record, but all of a sudden their income's doubled, and now and all these other people are starting to potentially lose their houses. I see the banks are pausing a lot of their home loans and stuff, including mine, which is helpful. I think the government, as incompetent they are in many areas, I think they're probably doing the best that they can with what they have.
It's interesting you say that the banks have paused your home loan and you're still pulling a paycheck, and they won't pause mine.
Oh, sorry, my income did stop for a while because of COVID. Then I finished my most recent qualification, which allowed me to get more work. So COVID happened when I was already studying paramedical science. So when the day after my qualification came through, bang, I was at work the next day.
So we got this guy in Victoria. They call him Chairman Dan. So that's the premier down there.
Yep.
I can't think of his last name. What's his last name? Dan.
I'm not familiar.
Anyway, somebody will throw the stick.
They're all the same. They try and sneak in with the humans.
So I think the confusion there is that you can get 20 people at a wedding and only 10 at a funeral. We can't go on the beach, but we can go into Bunnings.
Yep.
We can go shopping between 7 and 9 because the virus only hangs around after those times. I think the whole thing is the confusion of when you get a government body involved like that, the interests are only going to be there for themselves.
I couldn't agree more that some of these things are arbitrary at best.
Yeah.
Like you've seen the meme where they're lining up for the ATM tellers. They're 1.5 meters apart vertically, but horizontally they're right next to each other. And the caption says something like, "Well, lucky this virus can't move sideways."
So you seem like a fairly intelligent sort of a person, and I'm only doing this because I'm looking at your face. And
I'll take that compliment.
Yeah, take it while you can. That's got to be your sound clip that you got to put on the beginning there. But what would be a reasonable measure? Now you're saying that this is serious, and you're saying that this is probably we've not had as much of the restrictions that you would have liked to have put in place. You would have kept it longer. You would have made it more isolating. What would be a reasonable expectation that you would have put in place?
Well, I mean, admittedly, I was at the pub the first day back. It was open, so I'm relieved. And the gym, because it's hard to say with the gyms, because the gyms are a big germ factory, but there's outweigh the health and wellness from you're increasing supporting your immune system through exercising, outweigh the extra load of the germs that are being passed around. But then there are measures such as the antibacterial wipes and extra restrictions. But and I'm not an expert in epidemiology or infectious disease, but in my opinion, maybe another month would have been good before we moved to the next phase. However, I'm trusting the experts, not the government, but the experts who advise them. So here we are.
But do you think like you said you're FIFO, so you fly in, fly out, yeah? So you jump on a plane with how many other people?
Well, we've still got restrictions for that, so we don't sit next to anyone. We have a space, which it doesn't mean a lot really, because the air gets circulated.
Yeah.
Too many other people. But we get COVID tested before 2 days before, so we get this huge thing put through our nose all the way back there, and it's not nice.
Yeah.
Nasal sex with the wire brush.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah. So, but wouldn't the pilots be tested every single time they jump on a plane?
Oh, I don't actually know the answer to that.
Flight attendants?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Because that I think is another query that I would have is that it's okay for you guys, if there's 24 people on the plane, which normally holds 170, you can still sit yourself apart, but it's going to be no different to the days of when we used to smoke down the back of the plane. It was crazy.
Yeah. I'll try to find an answer to that question for you if you like, though. I'll find out for you.
Yeah. It would be interesting to know if the flight attendants and also the pilot gets that. So then, of course, now we'll segue that into the huge protest that just happened recently.
Yeah.
Mate, now I think the restriction is that we can only have 6 people in my house, but I can have 10,000 people protest with a mask on my face, but I can't go to the beach. I see that's.
So are those protests, are they legal as far as COVID is concerned?
Yeah. Yeah, so there was an injunction that was lifted to say that we should be able to peacefully protest against something that we stand for. And in this case here, it was the Black Lives Matter.
Well, that just negates all our COVID stuff, doesn't it? I agree with you. That is ridiculous. And now what's for the next outbreak over there?
Well, not only over there, but what about here? So we had them Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. Did you have them?
Sorry, I'm in WA, so.
Over here, over there. Did you have protests over there?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I mean, we may have.
I
don't know. I've been away up in the bush. I'm pretty isolated out there. So.
Yeah. So let's get into your book, mate, because I was really interested to know that the reason that you wrote that is that you said you're on tour one day doing a couple of talks and somebody suggested to you, nudged you and said, mate, you should put a book out because a lot of this makes sense. What's your philosophy? Because I hear you a lot about diets, you know, and the best diet is a no diet. But again, for me, if I was to listen to the experts, maybe even the CSIRO, they'll say to me that paleo is the best way to go. Then let's go vegan. Then let's go, you know, meat and 2 veg. And let's just greens. What do I do?
The experts have never said that, though. Depending on who you consider to be experts, though.
Well, CSIRO?
Yeah. So, okay, what do they say?
So their suggestion is to have a healthy, balanced meal. Which
okay.
You know, your fibers, your fat.
Yeah. But when you were saying before the expert, it sounded like you were saying the expert said keto, then the expert said paleo, then the
keto.
CSIRO, they are experts, and what they said that makes good sense. But I don't think any real experts have ever said keto, paleo, this fad diet, that fad diet.
Yeah.
Definitely haven't said the pH diet or the alkaline diet. Just while we're at it, slightly off topic, no experts has ever called anyone a sheep. No real experts.
No real experts would say that. Yeah. I agree with you. Because in fact, you did. I think I've got this one here. This one I loved what you wrote. I can't, but I loved it. It was just brilliant. No, I didn't keep it. It was something. It was something around how to change your pH balance, and it was something like vomit a lot, eat processed food,
hyperventilate.
Hyperventilate. That was the other one.
It wouldn't be processed food. That would have like virtually no negligible change effect on it. But to actually change your pH, hyperventilate, like vomit in a big way.
And so, but your reversal of that is also the same. The same heading was how to change your pH. And what were can you know, what are the ways that I can change my pH?
Well, that to actually change your pH. In
the positive way, though.
You can't really change your pH through food. The bloke, I forgot his name now, Robert someone.
Yeah.
He, the author of the pH Miracle. He wrote that you can change it through diet. And then, you know, no disease can thrive can live in an alkaline diet. It's just bullshit. They're not founded in any science. There's no evidence to support any of that. If your pH changes outside of that homeostasis level from about 7.35 to 7.45, well, then you're going to need to get in the hospital real quick, maybe call an ambulance.
Yeah.
Like we got buffers and stuff for our kidneys, and it's tightly regulated by our organs. That's just a myth. It's just a fallacy that we can change it to make it more alkaline. You drink alkaline water, it's all kind of pointless, really. I mean, admittedly, as I wrote in the Wellness Bible, actually, the majority of the foods that they recommend in the pH Miracle, in the alkaline diet, are good, but that's because they're fruit and vegetables.
But what would be your philosophy? What's your philosophy when it comes to wellness?
Yeah.
Now here I am. You know, here I am. I'll give you my backstory.
Yep.
So born 1961, 58 years of age.
Yep.
Been to hospital on 2 occasions. Broken bones. One on a monkey bar. Am I allowed to say monkey bar?
You say whatever you want, mate.
All right. On a monkey bar, and the other one a massive laceration in my foot, which nearly tore my calf apart from surfing. Twice in the hospital. Grew up on German food. A lot of pork sausages, a lot of knuckle, a lot of fat.
Any sauerkraut?
Say again?
Sauerkraut?
Oh, mate, heaps of that. Yeah, heaps.
Probiotic, mate.
Probiotic, yes. Yeah, get that. But I don't know if at that day back then that my parents were thinking, oh, that's one of the, you know, it's a probiotic. I don't think they were thinking that. I think it was just a German staple. You know, it's meat, potatoes, and sauerkraut. So I grew up on that whole time. I don't eat processed food. If I do, it's because I'm lazy, and it'll be rare that I'll do stuff like that. Got to 58. That's the only time I've ever been in hospital. I don't have diabetes. I don't have any underlying health issues. But I eat, I would say, in my world, I eat healthily. So I don't follow any particular diet, and I do it everything in moderation. So when you see me having a whiskey, I'll tell you, some people will say, mate, you're just an alcoholic. I have maybe 2 whiskeys a week, and I do that on a Tuesday, and I do it on a Saturday morning. Saturday morning's the killer, by the way. But what's the philosophy when it comes to just healthy eating? What would you say that you could recommend for me? Because am I carrying a bit of weight, mate? I can probably lose 5 kilos. You know, I'm not a massive guy. I'm 6 foot, and I'm 96 kilos.
But your love of life and enjoyment and happy disposition will probably outweigh any negative any adverse effects from a 5 kilos that you think you need to lose. You know, I don't have a philosophy actually, but I'll just tell you, based on the evidence and what's out there, it sounds like you've got a fairly well-balanced, well-rounded diet. Just don't eat too much. That's about it. I mean, I can talk about specific things, like if you're trying to lose weight, well, here's the thing. If it doesn't go on here, it can't go on there. You're never going to lose weight without a calorie deficit, no matter what your ratio is. If you're high protein, low carb, or low or the opposite, you know, or high fat, and whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Do you think that? Do you think that bigger people, larger people who carry the weight and that make the excuse around, I have a thyroid problem, do you believe that that is a problem?
For the people with actual hypothyroidism, yeah, but you know, the majority of people that blame their obesity issues on hormonal problems have never even had their hormones tested. Because I think if they did, then that's just one less excuse, you know. But you look at Ethiopia, all these poor kids and stuff. You know, I wonder how many of them have like hormonal issues. In Auschwitz, there were no fat people.
Yeah.
But no, there is a certain amount of people who do have actual hormonal problems, such as severe hypothyroidism patients, but they still will lose weight in a calorie deficit. It might just seem a bit harder for them than the regular population.
I'm going back, you know, 120 years when I did my studies, and I'm thinking way back then there were 3 types of body shapes. I can't even remember.
Ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph.
Mesomorph, yeah, that's the ones. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so they're called phenotypes, right?
Right.
And they were actually developed in the 1930s by a psychologist.
Right.
And that psychologist, I forgot his name because once again I didn't have a see his questions. Right. Yeah, so he found in his mind a correlation between personality types or personality disorders and body shape. There's no evidence for that. It never really stuck, but there's a slight correlation with body type, phenotype.
Yeah.
And those who find it easier to gain weight and those who find it easier to lose weight. But it's a very rough thing, and it's not really based on high quality evidence. But it's just funny that it was founded so long ago by a psychologist and somehow it made its way to the fitness industry. And I think it's just an excuse for people to sell supplements.
Is it true that shorter people find it harder to lose weight? I do know that shorter people, they seem to be better bodybuilders. Like they just
okay. So I think with the for example the bicep, when there's a shorter distance between the end of the 2 bones, it makes it easier to gain height on that muscle. I think it's things like that. So the people with longer limbs have a harder time getting the thickness that they are after in the bodybuilding.
Do you take supplements yourself?
Nah, not really. It's just
that's good to hear. I mean, you write a book on the the Wellness Bible. And I think sometimes there's an underlying reason why people write books is to, let's sell some of these probiotics or probiotics.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Actually, that's one. If I were to take a supplement, it'd be probiotics. And I do occasionally take probiotics. You just reminded me, but no brand in particular, just the one with the highest amount of probiotics in there. But I'll tell you what, in terms of evidence, scientific evidence, creatine monohydrate. Have you heard of that?
Creatine, yes.
Yeah, so that has, it's probably, a lot of people don't really take it or think of it, maybe because it's too simple. I'm always about getting back to basics. But that supplement has more supporting evidence, more efficacious supporting evidence than any other supplement. It's better than any pre-workout. All the pre-workouts are based on caffeine, which is fine, because caffeine, also has a bit of evidence towards it. But yeah, that creatine monohydrate is so far ahead of all these other ones that people are wasting their money on. It's just, most of these other ones, including multivitamins, is pretty much just expensive urine.
Are you a tea drinker or a coffee drinker?
I want to be more of a tea drinker. I like a bit of green tea, especially the fancy ones. But I love coffee, my first thing. It's like the highlight of my day. Sometimes I get up real early, about 5 o'clock or even earlier, 3 o'clock at work. And go down the beach and have a long Mac topped up in a small cup. Same thing every day. That's one of my life's pleasures.
So truth time.
Yep.
Have you ever had any crappy processed food where you've just snuck into the back of KFC or the Big Arches and you snuck in? Yeah. It's never a sober decision, but it's usually a regretful one. Oh yeah, isn't it ever? Yeah.
Yeah, the KFC always looks good, but it's never actually as good, especially the next day. You do it about once every 6 months just to remind yourself why you never do it.
Yeah, there's been some pretty cool guys that I've seen that, there's one fitness guy, I can't remember his name, but he decided he wanted to empathize with his clients a lot more. So what he decided to do was put on a whole heap of weight. So he was probably very lean at 80, 85 kilos, super, super fit. And then he couldn't understand why his clients just didn't have that mindset. So he pumped himself up to 120 kilos. And then along, a period of time, he decided to then see if he could lose that weight. Is that something that you would do?
I think you might be referring to the documentary Super Size Me.
Oh, I don't think it was that guy, but yeah, similar. Yeah, similar.
Some sort of deal. Yeah, well, I'm using that excuse. I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm doing it for my clients. But no, I've had 2 knee reconstructions and a few herniated discs in my neck, and but refused to alter my diet or reduce the alcohol intake. So I did put on about 15 kilos of fat for a while there, but I also didn't really care too much because it was a similar thing. This is like to see how many clients felt losing it. And it was a lot harder. In order to lose it, I had to go just as strict on the other way. And the way to lose my weight and get my 6-pack back was in line with the evidence, basically, which was if it doesn't go on here, it can't go on there. So I had to reduce the calories. I skipped breakfast for 6 weeks and didn't have a single drink, and trained at least once a day, preferably twice a day, and I lost those 15 kilos. So it's simple. It's no magic bullet, no special supplement. It's just doing the old-fashioned way and being consistent.
So what I just heard is you said you skipped breakfast for 16 weeks.
No, 6 weeks.
Oh, 6 weeks. You just
maybe slightly more. There's I had 2 swings, 3 weeks, then 2 weeks off, then another 3 weeks. And in that 2 weeks off, I do whatever I want. Sometimes I might skip breakfast, or other times I might have a protein shake.
So the philosophy of eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper, that's not a good philosophy to stand by?
Well, as long as that daily calorie deficit is there, it doesn't really matter which order you have it in. Nutrient timing is fairly important depending on what time of the day you train, but it's nowhere near as important as the calorie restriction, the calorie deficit.
So if I wanted to shift my 5 kilos, that 5 kilos of weight that, as a sub 60-year-old, I just can't seem to shift, and I ride a bike, I'm pretty active.
Yep.
This time last year I had a personal trainer and we shifted a whole heap of weight, but it's always that last 5 kilos, man.
Yep, always that last 5.
So what do I do? Come on, tell me what I do. Should I just get liposuction?
Turn it up a notch, mate. Get on the steroid. No. What do I do?
What would you do?
Well, I'd seriously turn it up a notch. I mean, we're looking a bit vague at your program here, but are you doing heavy resistance training, like heavy weights, max it out, like 6 to 10 reps?
Let's just go off the heavy weights. I would say if I'm doing a hill climb, the hill climb would be my heavy weight, and I would do that repetitively.
So you're doing cardio and possibly high intensity interval training, depending on how you do it. I'd say add weights to your schedule. So maybe do your bike riding in the morning and do your weights at night or something. That in conjunction, we've taken a real hit to your energy consumption. I'd look at like knocking out one of your main meals of the day for a certain period of time until you lose that weight. And then don't go back to the way you were before. Then we'll look at a maintenance plan for a while.
Yeah.
Then there's something to maintain that. But yeah, if you just go straight back to overindulging, well, then we'll end up being yo-yo dieting.
I saw one of those women on your Instagram page. She was, I think she was like in her mid 60s, quite a largish woman. And then the next photo next to her, she's like,
oh, me ex.
Sorry?
Me ex. No, I'm joking, mate.
Oh, jeez. I know. It's rare that I get shocked, and I just went, oh, okay, yeah.
No, I remember the picture, yeah.
yeah. So that's commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, she did well, especially because a lot of people, a lot of women over the age of about 60, it really is harder for them. They're not wrong, but it's not impossible. So they have to try a bit harder, especially after menopause. And that lady in the photo, she's well and truly after menopause, but she did it, and she shows that it can be done. Yeah.
So there's really no excuse, is there?
Not really. I mean, your body doesn't care about excuses.
Yeah, but unless you've got a disability. I mean, if you have a serious disability that hinders you from doing the type of exercise that you're talking about, it is going to be a lot more difficult. And I'm talking about a serious disability, not one that is going to keep you in a wheelchair that you're using a mobility scooter. You know, we're talking about...
Yeah, then again, it'll be a lot harder again, but there's people out there with these serious disabilities that you speak of that are also getting it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like David Goggins says, if your knees are fucked, well, then use your arms.
True.
You know who I'm talking about, David Goggins, the Navy SEAL?
David Goggins, mate. I listened to him for months. My motivation. That guy,
he's good. He's good like that.
He's pretty incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty.
And his knees are no good at the moment, and I can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say that I don't know why people run, because I never see a happy runner. They're always like that. Walkers are always like this. Hello. How you doing? Runners are always like, yeah, get out of my way.
Yeah.
I think there's a theory behind that. And I'm sticking with that, which is to be an Olympic style athlete is you've got to endure a lot of pain, a lot of misery, and you've got to upset a lot of people for you to reach the top. And then you get someone like me who just lets his body go. He's only got 5 kilos that he wants to lose, and probably a happier disposition. But
dad boards are back in.
Say again?
Dad boards are back in at the moment.
Yeah, is it?
Dad boards, apparently.
Oh, well, then I must be in. In. Mate, it's been so good to talk to you. I know this has been a long time coming. And is there a second book coming out?
Yeah, I'm going to bring out a new one. It's a bit hard with work, but I'm going to make it happen. I've done it before. I'll do it again. And it's next time I'm going to try and go down the mainstream publishing route instead of self-publishing. So
yeah, it's a bit tough. That one, isn't it?
It'll be a bit more accessible for everyone out there. So
yeah. So for everyone that's watching this, I'm going to I'll have a little screenshot of your book up there, the Wellness Bible. Mate, I wish you all the best. And do you want to do this again? Maybe down the track?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Next time I'll contact you a couple of days before to find out what you're going to ask me. But this has been one of my more enjoyable interviews. I'll tell you that.
Oh, mate, it's look, I had a whole bunch of notes here and I didn't use any of it. Like I used one, I think one little thing there. But I'd love to do this again. You know, let's look at it maybe 3 months down the track. We'll see how it goes. And I'm sure we'll get some traction out of it.
Yeah, thanks heaps for this, mate. I appreciate it.